Well, it's my T7040. I call it Little Blue, but it is a 180 horsepower tractor. So, as you can see, it's just got out of the showroom, freshly washed and waxed, hardly ever gets used. But we're going to take off that oil filter. You can see I have oil leak. This always leaks. It's in the valve body. I've had it rebuilt 3 times. As soon as you bring it home, it leaks. It's all dirty from a hose blowing earlier. But I love this tractor. I love it. As you can see, it's got just a little bit of dirt, a little bit newer on it. But if you don't maintain them, they don't last. So oil change and fuel filters today. So I'm gonna find one of these empty pails and catch some oil. Got my Allen wrench to take the oil plug out. So time to drain some oil. It only holds 18.9 liters of oil. I use synthetic oil, 100% synthetic, 540, and I change oil twice a year in it. So, but oil's good for 500 hours. So, I never even looked at what the hours are on it from when I did the last oil change. It's just at spring, so it's time to do it. And the fuel filters, I'm embarrassed at how long it's been, because I read the oil filter or the fuel filter, and I must not have changed the fuel filter last year. So, you're not supposed to go 2,000 hours on fuel filter, but it did. So, time to change her though. I have grease monkey gloves, but I always forget to wear them. So, I just pulled the plug. Looks like I'm missing the bucket now. So, we'll just let that drain. I ran the tractor for an hour to get her good and warm first. So, then I'll pull off the filter. So the worst part about the job of changing the oil is this is where the oil gets put back in. And nothing fits between that loader frame. So that's the absolute worst part of changing the oil on this tractor, is putting the oil back in. Everything else is easy. If you turn the wheels like I have here, you can reach the filter and the oil plug all nice. Of course, I used a white towel as a rag. So there's the new oil filter, Fleet Guard. They're not much different in price from Case New Holland filters, but from the dealership. But I get this one at the truck dealership, and I get it for half the price of what the Case New Holland dealer, or the New Holland dealer, or the Case dealer. The Case dealer is about 30% off of what the New Holland dealer is on the same filters, and then from the truck dealership I can get this for half the price of what New Holland charges for the oil filter. And from what I was told, Fleet Guard is the one that makes the Case New Holland filters, and then they just paint them black. So and Fleet Guard's a good filter, so that's what I use. I think my fuel filters are Fleet Guard as well. Let's see here. Yep, Fleet Guard and Fleet Guard. So I'll bring you back out when I'm doing something interesting, but I've got time, so I'm just gonna let that thing dribble, and I'm gonna take the fuel filters off. I'm not afraid of getting a little dirty, so because that fuel filter is gonna drain, spill right on where I'm working, but it's okay. Been dirty before, I wash. So this is our fuel filter here that I'm going to put, and this goes on the end of it. This is a sensor. I got to clean this up a little bit. Turn this filter around, and that goes there. And so then it's kind of a pain in the ass because you got to take it all off, but I guess if it does its job, that's what it's for. So you just screw that in there, but I'm just going to clean it first, and then I'll bring over a jerry can. I fill my filters before I put them on. I know some guys don't. Some guys go, no, I'm gonna make sure I just pump them over, but I fill my fuel filters, and I have done the straight ATF like on a big truck, but I've never done it on a tractor, and I just soon put diesel fuel in it. So that's what I'm gonna do now, is clean this little sensor deal up, and then I'll bring my jerry can over to fill up with diesel fuel. As you can see, I like to grease the gaskets on my oil filters. I didn't know that people put oil on them till I was a teenager, and in shop class my shop teacher said, "What the heck you doing with that grease? You don't put grease on oil filters?" I said, "Yeah, you do. Everyone does." But apparently not everyone does it, but that's how I was taught. So that's what I do. I'm careful how I put it on, not to get too much in there. I mean, you're always going to have a little, I mean, when you tighten it up, you're going to squish, you're going to get some grease in the oil filter, but I'm not too worried about it. So that's how I've done it. This tractor, I put new air filters in last fall, and I did the cabin filters up here, and then there's one behind the seat that's stupid expensive. I did all those last fall, so I won't do any of those this spring. In the middle of summertime, I'll change the cabin filters again, like the outside ones, because they'll get full of hay if I'm baling lots. And we'll go from there. So I'm going to fill these up with fuel. Oh, I forgot. Here I got my little diesel jerry can. And I do try to do the color code thing, like the yellow cans are for diesel, blues for kerosene, not that I ever use kerosene, and red for gasoline. I used to truck fuel for 10 years, and even though I can tell the difference just by shaking the jug, not everyone can. So you gotta set your family up for success. So don't put diesel fuel in gas cans and vice versa, and then get mad at people if they screw up and put diesel in the lawnmower. So we just use the right jerry cans so no one gets messed up. So I'm gonna fill these filters up and put them on. So I've got that little sensor deal put on. I've got the wire, and this is a little clip that keeps it on. And I've snugged them both up, hand tight, as I always do. I changed the oil in the skid steer last night, and I've never done that before. I didn't even know where the oil filter was. But I had to take I took the sides off the back of the skid steer, and then I ended up having to take the seat lifts up, and I could reach the oil filter that way, but it was so black under there I didn't know where the oil filter was. So we found it, but that oil filter, I barely put my finger on it, and it started to thread off. And then you have to take a little skid plate on the bottom off to dump the oil. And I just lifted my wrench up to it, and when I touched the wrench on it, the bolt was that loose that it started coming off. So none of that stuff happens on the stuff I do. Sometimes I get in trouble for putting on things on too tight, but filters I only ever go hand tight. So that's the oil plug. I've just put it in, and you can see the size of my hand, how big a wrench I use. So we had a neighbor that did the engine on a 7440, and the mechanic never put the oil plug in very tight, and he drove it out, and he was summer fallowing with it, and the first field he did, the oil plug come out and cooked the engine. So we like to put them in tight, but when I was young and ambitious, you know, you go through a stage in life where you're a little kid and you pull your guts apart trying to tighten everything, and then you get to a spot where you start getting stronger, and then you start stripping stuff. So now that you're over 40, you just make sure things are good and tight without stripping. And the way I do that is I put a small wrench on and pull my guts apart, and I know it's good and tight. I'd rather do that than put a big wrench on it and then do it that way. So that's what I do. So that thing's never gonna leak. Any of this oil that's leaked, that's hydraulic fluid that's leaked down. None of it's engine oil. So, but I'm gonna put some oil in here and we'll start this pig up. like I said, this loader frame is what sucks ass to, or pardon me, is not fun to put oil in. So we'll start on that now. So this is how I fill it up. I got my shadow in the way. So I got that little jug. It's a handy jug because you got a screw top on the top and on the spout. But I use Shell T6 synthetic extreme temperature, 540. And at 540, that stuff is good for when it's minus 40, you got no damn problem. And when it's plus 40, that's Celsius, so that's well over 110, 100 and I don't know if it's 115 Fahrenheit. Anyhow, it's good stuff. Of course, I'm not sponsored by anyone, but Shell, I used to sell oil too, and Shell, things can all meet minimum standards, but the Shell oil, it exceeds minimum standards by quite a bit. I use the 1540 Triple T in like my old truck. People that don't know about synthetic oil, there's detergents in it and cleaners and stuff, and if you have a real old junker like my, well, it's right here, my Semi, if you start with synthetic oil on it, there's a chance that you're going to take out some old gaskets and stuff. But like all of my pickups, everything, I've never had anything but synthetic. This tractor's never had anything but synthetic. So I don't know what it's like in the States, but at the Shell plant, where they make all these pails, it has the same line that does all the John Deere pails. So if you're a John Deere guy and say that you'll only buy John Deere oil, well, this is where it comes from. So, but I use all Shell hydraulic fluid as well. On the pivot, that's hydraulic, I use Walmart oil, and Walmart oil is a recycled oil, which is nothing wrong with it. It meets all the minimum standards, but it's half the price. And when you blow a line and you got to pump out a drum of oil on the ground and you got to fill it back up, I buy the Walmart oil for that on a 40-year-old pivot. So I'm going to start the painstaking dumping the oil in. I had looked at buying bulk, and I could buy a 1,000-liter tote, and I got to think of what I could buy it for. I think it was going to cost me $5,000 for the tote, for the synthetic oil. And then I got to think about that now. Now I'm starting to think no, it was going to be $5,000 for the oil, and then it was going to be $1,500 for the pump. And that was going to have a pump where you just drag out the hose and you set the gun. You set the gun for, 18.9 liters, or like on the Semi, 45 liters, and you just pull the trigger and it pumps it away. And like I said, I could get that one on a pretty good deal. I think they retailed at $1,800, and I could get it somewhere between $1,100 and $1,300. But you start doing those kind of investments and you realize that you don't farm big enough for all that, and that the half hour it takes you to dump oil in this tractor is time I can spend on it. When I build a shop, I will do bulk oil. You can save so much money on bulk oil, it's just crazy. I can get bulk 1540. I can save, well, right now, like 1540 at Walmart, and these are Canadian dollars for my US friends, so 80 cents can buy you a Canadian dollar. You can buy the big jugs, or the small jugs, you can pay, well, the 1 liter or the 1 quart bottles are $7. Then if you go to a 5, or if you go to a gallon jug, then it's about $5 a quart. And then if you go to the pail, you can get it for $3.50 a quart. So, and so then if you go, and then like right now, that's what the sales are on right now for spring, the oil sales. But if you go bulk, you can go to about $2.50 a quart. So it's a big savings, but you need enough equipment that it makes it worth it. So I better quit boring you and get this oil in the tractor. Well, now we're gonna see how good a fuel filter changer I am, how good it starts. Here, I'm gonna gross out you neat freaks that can't stand a dirty tractor. And I'll just show I've got a problem. I drink and drive. Okay, it's water. Oh, and a Gatorade jug or bottle. So we'll see if this thing starts now. Now we'll see if it starts. Well, I'd say that was a success. So, don't know what you hear. So there's no oil leak from the drain plug. Let's see if we're leaking any fuel. Easier to tell when my finger's on the way. And no oil leaking at the oil filter. So I'm gonna let it warm up. I got my little marker. I'm gonna write down the hours on it. We'll go for a walk and let that warm up. I scraped out the horse pen, or I shouldn't call it, it's the round pen. It's not supposed to be for a corral, but he's such a bugger. I've got I've ordered new rails. That one's broken, this one just needs to get fixed, but anyhow, I told Blue to poop in one spot, but he's got like 8 piles. That horse is full of shit. So you can see I hauled it out. But I've got my little booster pack. Oh, I guess I turn it the way you can see it. So I'm gonna boost the 2390 so I can get the oil changed on it, get it ready. It's still hooked to the hay rake from last fall. So I'm gonna get it ready to go and hook up the disc, get ready to start breaking hay. You can hear the dogs are fighting. They do that every day, all day. So there's the 23. You see the pile of manure there. I scraped all around the bale feeder and everything. So I'm gonna hook my little charger up. This thing works slick. Dad has a bigger one of these Genesis boost things. I can't remember. Mine's a GB70. His is over 100. And that one, supposedly, they say you can boost 80 highway tractors before needing to recharge, but I will tell you that if it's minus 40 and you try for an hour, it will take it down by about a quarter of a charge. So, but this one is not rated for what, it's more something you throw in the back of your truck or under the back seat of your truck or in your car or something, but it will start these tractors just fine, especially when it's not 40 below. So if I don't bring you back out, I'll show you the dipstick on the tractor, so I'll bring you back out in just a bit. Okay, this tractor ran for half an hour. I shut her off, cleaned up some other of my stuff. I have cleaned off the dipstick. I just did that before I turned the camera on because it's going to be really hard. I can't get my both arms in there, I'm too fat. So you gonna look over here for a sec? And you can see the level. Oh, I don't know if it's in focus. Anyhow, the level is right there. And what it says is that's the max level. So there, the oil's easier to see there. Anyhow, she's good. So I know that this hasn't been super exciting because I don't have a camera, just a cell phone. I don't have a tripod to set it all up. So let me know in the comments whether this was a waste of your time or whether this interested you at all. But I'm gonna go start that 2390. So be sure to comment, rate, and subscribe, and have yourselves a great day. And if you're calving cows, I hope it's going good. I got a cow to AI here this afternoon, so, and we walked one in to breed to autograph last night, so take care.